Happy Friday and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for September 13th, 2024. Friday the 13th. All the bad luck and all the weird stuff that goes with it came a few hours early for the Miami Dolphins and Miami Dolphin fans on Thursday Night Football. Wow. Buffalo 31, Miami 10. The Dolphins couldn't do much of anything, and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, who suffered a serious concussion 2 seasons ago, which became the focus of national news and NFL safety, suffered another concussion last night, 2 weeks into the season. Friday the 13th is also International Chocolate Day and National Peanut Day, so it's not all bad. There are several big headlines today, including this one.
So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
Donald Trump saying no more debates, speaking at an event in Tucson, Arizona yesterday.
It's too late anyway. The voting's already begun. You got to go out and vote. We got to vote. This is going to be the most important vote in the history of our country. It'll be the most important. People said that I was angry at the debate. Angry. I was angry. And yes, I am angry because he allowed 21 million illegal aliens invading our communities. Many of them are criminals. Many are criminals. I'm angry.
This utility worker on the streets of New York City agreeing with the former president.
Would you like to see another debate?
I don't know if it's going to really change anybody's mind. Most people who are voting, I think, have their minds made up already. And whatever they say, it's not going to really change it. I think it'd be just a waste of time.
We will hear from some other voters in a moment. First, Vice President Harris was also on the campaign trail yesterday, making 2 stops in North Carolina, where she attempted to do the whole accent thing again, which nobody is going to say anything about because that's just what she does now, right? Having lived in North Carolina, I can tell you, even though it has the word North in it, it's definitely Southern. And I'm not sure if this is another attempt at a Southern accent.
We're 54 days from this election.
Any idea what she said there? Me either.
We're 54 days from this election.
Okay, I think it was, we're 54 days away from this election. Y'all.
2 nights ago, Donald Trump and I had our first debate. Same old tired playbook we've heard for years, with no plan for how he would address the needs of the American people.
So, the only presidential candidate basically in history to have not put forth a plan is actually saying Donald Trump, the former president of the United States with a laundry list of accomplishments, has no plan. She said she'll sign Roe v. Wade back into law if Congress puts the bill on her desk and give first-time low-income home buyers a $25,000 credit to help buy a home. Oh, yeah, and no tax on tips, which was Trump's plan. That's pretty much what we know so far. Yesterday, Donald Trump said he wants to make overtime work tax-free because anyone who actually works a job knows when you work a certain amount of overtime, you get taxed extra, right? Which makes it counterproductive. Anyway, we'll see if she starts talking about that in the next few days. As for the campaigns, the former president will be speaking at a rally in Las Vegas tonight, 7 o'clock Pacific. That'll be on Newsmax. RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are holding a Trump event in Glendale, Arizona on Saturday. Vice President Harris will be back in Pennsylvania today. Her running mate, Governor Walz, is campaigning in Wisconsin, another key battleground state. And for more on the presidential race, this is Newsmax host Rob Schmitt.
Voters chose Joe Biden. What they got was Obama on steroids. Biden would be a puppet for the Marxists who took over the Democrat Party in 2008. Having just been duped in 2020, though, it's hard to imagine Americans will be fooled again, especially when the scheme this time, in this year, is so patently obvious. Kamala Harris is one of the most radical politicians in America. Suddenly, though, she's spinning a moderate agenda and giving Americans zero specifics. None at the debate a couple of nights ago, none today in North Carolina. Obviously because she clearly intends to flip right back to race-baiting socialism the moment that she is handed some kind of power in this country. Here was Kamala today in North Carolina, a speech as empty as all the rest.
America is ready for a new way forward. We are ready for a new generation of leadership that is optimistic about what we can do together. A future where we build what I call an opportunity economy.
Watch the speech today. It's the same thing she said at the debate. She's memorized about 2 pages worth of notes, and she's going to say these 2 pages for the next 55 days. That meant nothing. A new way forward, an opportunity economy. These are meaningless phrases. There's nothing behind them. Turning the page? Kamala is the page right now. She wants to turn the page on herself and be the next page too? That's the plan? The desperation to showcase Kamala Harris as a change candidate is laughable, and ironically, it was only plausible because Kamala has done virtually nothing for the past 4 years. It's very easy to forget she was even there. But Kamala was feeling herself today, juiced from her heavily rehearsed debate performance where she answered not one single question. Kamala mocking Trump this afternoon for the one debate question that threw him for a loop.
He said, concepts of a plan. Oh, you all watched the debate.
They're telling you that that's likable. I don't know too many people that like that person. It's a bad look to blast that kind of arrogance out there when everybody knows that you were carried by the network that hosted the debate on Tuesday night, so obviously carried. Kamala Harris has never been popular, and nobody in her party really believes that she's capable of this. She's probably thinking right now, it's so easy running for president. She's simply the product of white guilt and America's new equity culture. More than anything, Kamala shouldn't get too far ahead of her skis. She might find herself headed for a pine tree.
That's Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. I would encourage you to go back and watch Rob's entire segment on Joe Biden and the Biden presidency leading up to the part that you just heard about Vice President Harris. I would also encourage you to go to Newsmax.com. Look for the article titled "Ally of Clinton's Says ABC Must Probe Whether the Debate Was Rigged." Mark Penn is a former advisor to Bill and Hillary Clinton for more than a decade, also co-chair of the Harvard Capps Harris poll, who co-wrote an editorial in the Wall Street Journal with a former New York Democrat about how biased the moderators were. If you don't know, David Muir is the anchor of World News Tonight. I mean, he is their top dog. And the editorial says, quote, "It was obviously decided in advance that the anchors would not fact-check the vice president." It also goes on to list every falsehood or lie that Kamala told about January 6th, Charlottesville, the abortion ban, Project 25, and more without being challenged on any of it. Again, that's former Clinton advisor and pollster Mark Penn. Another longtime Democrat and friend of the Clintons as well, 86-year-old law professor and author Alan Dershowitz, who said he's been a Democrat since he was 13 years old, announced on Newsmax that he has had enough and he's leaving the Democratic Party. The segment starts with Kamala Harris addressing the Israel-Hamas war in Tuesday night's debate.
Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
Well, that was a very bad answer. She put the blame on all the wrong people. Of course, people are being killed, innocent people, because Hamas is using children as human shields. They have what's called the dead baby strategy. They use babies as shields in order to get them killed so they can parade them in front of CNN cameras. And yeah, there ought to be a ceasefire. Israel is in favor of a ceasefire. It's Hamas who's against the ceasefire. An honest answer would have been Hamas is opposing a ceasefire. And the reason Hamas is opposing a ceasefire is they're winning the fight among Democrats. And they're turning Israel into a partisan issue rather than a bipartisan issue. And so Harris and her party bear a lot of responsibility for the continuing fighting in Gaza. If they would support Israel strongly, I think Sinwar would have no reason to continue the fighting. But right now, he has every reason to continue the fighting because they're winning the war for public attention.
Well, I'm curious, you're leaving the Democratic Party. Again, you've made your remarks as to why specifically the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will, was the DNC for you, in your words there, right? So then where do you stand today? Are you nonpartisan?
I'm independent. I'm an independent voter. I voted Democrat. I started working for the Democrats when I was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. I went around in a sound truck supporting Philip Shuffler, who was running for state assemblyman in New York on the Democratic ticket. I voted for every single Democratic presidential candidate.
But it is possible you may vote for Trump.
I haven't made up my mind. I have no presumption any longer in favor of voting Democrat. I am going to evaluate every candidate on their merits. I've already, even in the past, I voted for Bill Weld, governor of Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I voted for Mitt Romney. So I've split my votes, but I've never voted for a presidential candidate other than a Democrat. I wish I had voted for Mitt Romney when he ran against Barack Obama the second time around. That was a serious mistake on my part. It wasn't a mistake on my part. Obama conned me. He called me to the Oval Office, and he promised me that he would have Israel's back. I didn't realize he meant that have Israel's back to paint the target on it, because he abandoned Israel in the last month of his presidency and turned the United Nations against Israel. And so, this has been long in coming. It's difficult. Every single member of my family is an active Democrat. Most of my friends are active Democrats. This is one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, and it's a personally difficult decision. But I've always lived my life based on principle, and I'm going to continue. I'm 86 years old. I'm not going to change now and become a partisan hack. I'm going to make decisions based on what I think is best for the country, best for the world, best for world peace, and best for...
Yeah, the ballot box is secret and sacred. So however you come to your conclusion, you wouldn't even have to share it with people, although you're always welcome to come on and talk with us.
My wife will know. My wife will know. And my children know. And we'll see who else knows. But I'm thinking very hard about it. I'm listening. I want to see another debate. I want to see Kamala Harris go before the New York Economic Council and answer the kind of questions that Trump answered by brilliant people like John Paulson. I want to see more. I want to learn more about her views. And I know a lot about his views, but I'm anxious to hear more about her views. So I have an open mind.
Well, there you go. Professor Alan Dershowitz, 86 years old. And if you know anything about Dershowitz, you know he is no fan of Donald Trump's. He has made that abundantly clear over the years. He even wrote the New York Times bestseller, Get Trump. He also wrote The War Against the Jews, How to End Hamas, which could help you better understand the current situation in the Middle East that he spoke about at the beginning of that segment. Anyway, he may not vote for Trump, but he's definitely not voting for Vice President Harris. Dershowitz is a native New Yorker. He's actually known Donald Trump for years and years. And as I mentioned earlier, here's some other New York voters, typically Democrats, with our Sarah Williamson.
Old, same old. Still don't know anything about Kamala, and we know what we know about Trump.
We were hoping for different questions, honestly, to be asked. So a little disappointed in the whole experience overall. So we didn't get the answers that we were hoping for because the questions weren't asked.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he has a plan, and we still don't know what her plan would be, if there is a plan.
Oh, geez, it's, I gotta say, I didn't really like the format. I didn't like the fact that there weren't, like, a lot of people there in the audience. I kind of like to see more of that kind of, like, how humans are actually interacting in the moment. I thought it was a little stilted. Yeah, it almost felt like some of the tangents became debates of their own, I'll tell you what.
I think a little bit, that's a factor, a little bit. Because now it's more of a personal attacks, and if they just can keep it together and stop attacking each other, we'd be okay.
Well, I thought, although I like Kamala, I thought Donald did a very good job.
I personally don't like Kamala Harris. I just don't like the way she talks, and I feel like a lot of her views on things aren't really right. Yeah. But I'm kind of in the between, though, so I'm not really sure.
And so, as someone who's sitting in the in-between, did you think that the debate moved the needle for you, or anyone who is an undecided voter?
I'm still really torn, so I'm not really sure. I'm like really dead in the middle. So I feel like right after October 7th happened, I feel like very shortly after, she was talking about like Palestinians being discriminated against, and I feel like she didn't focus as much on the issue as she should have. That's something that really like scared me away. Yeah.
Newsmax reporter Sarah Williamson on the streets of New York City. Much like the cuts I played yesterday, again in New York City, I'd say it's 60, maybe 70% Trump supporters to 30, 40% Harris voters. And if you missed it yesterday, the Trump campaign announced that he will be holding another rally in New York next week. It's either going to be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week in Uniondale, Long Island, which is a red section of New York. I know there are a lot of Long Island listeners to the Newsmax Daily, so if you're one of them, you may want to attend that rally next week. All right, and another big headline. Attorney General Merrick Garland spoke in the halls of the Justice Department yesterday.
Conspiracy theories, dangerous falsehoods, efforts to bully and intimidate career public servants.
More from Chris Plante and the Right Squad.
Seems like every single day, or pretty much every single day, Democrats are proving again and again that they're rather far removed from reality, and today was certainly no exception, was it, Mercy?
Right, because it's Thursday, right? Okay, Attorney General Merrick Garland spoke at the Department of Justice this morning, claiming that the justice system is blind under his watch, hoping the mountains of evidence that his DOJ punishes political opponents falls on deaf ears.
Federal prosecutors and agents may never make a decision regarding an investigation or prosecution for the purpose of affecting any election or the purpose of giving an advantage or disadvantage to any candidate or political party. There is not one rule for friends and another for foes, one rule for the powerful and another for the powerless, one rule for the rich and another for the poor, one rule for Democrats and another for Republicans.
Garland continued his speech by making a promise.
Our norms are a promise that we will not allow this department to be used as a political weapon.
I mean, Samantha, seriously. He's unbelievable. Your thoughts, listening to him speak, he obviously is trying to push this narrative that DOJ is neutral, although it really isn't.
Well, it is ironic that the man who weaponized DOJ is now calling for people not to criticize him for being overly political. The Supreme Court has actually had to intervene on 2 or 3 occasions because this DOJ has been so overly political. The Supreme Court has had to intervene and say, actually, DOJ, you're the one violating the norms of the rule of law. You're the one who's out of bounds on the Constitution. And he's created all sorts of new legal precedent as a result of his DOJ being weaponized. And so, look, I think the problem is this has backfired. All of these efforts have backfired. And I think voters sort of see through even a speech like this. They know that some of these prosecutions are overly political and that the law is being weaponized for political purposes.
Right. And they've said it before. If it wasn't because his name was Donald Trump, they would not have gone forward with these cases. But meanwhile, as the left continues to falsely claim President Trump called fallen soldiers losers and suckers, an accidental email by White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby shows how the Biden administration truly feels about our nation's heroes. Fox News emailed White House staffers asking for a response to criticisms by a group of 4 veterans regarding the White House's botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Kirby accidentally replied all, writing, obviously, no use in responding, a handful of vets indeed, and all of one stripe. When a reporter followed up, Kirby said he clearly didn't realize the reporter was on the email chain. Scott, I mean, this is literally one of the most, anyone who's ever worked in the government, it's like you fear ever responding to all, because then you're like, oops, you gave the real answer here. Yeah. I mean, John Kirby, okay, he was the Pentagon spokesperson during the withdrawal of Afghanistan, the botch withdrawal. And then on top of that, he still has his job. And then now he's basically saying, oh, because these vets that are being critical, they're Republican? I mean, don't you think that's a little too partisan?
First of all, just getting back to Merrick Garland for 1 second. Whenever I hear him speak, doesn't it always sound like he's a 10-year-old boy about ready to cry?
Well,
like
yes.
He did something wrong, and I feel like he's just going to start weeping. But this thing to me with the emails, I believe in accountability.
Yeah.
Why can't somebody just say, hey, you know what? We screwed it up. We screwed up the withdrawal. Sorry, I can't blame anybody. The last guy that was president wasn't here. I'm here. We blew it. And I think the American people would say, yeah, you kind of did.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for apologizing. Move on.
Yeah,
and I don't want, God, the families, of course, if those 13 fallen soldiers, I mean, God help those families. But just, we can put that kind of in the rearview mirror and maybe never let that happen again.
That's actor Scott Baio on The Right Squad with Chris Plante and Mercedes Schlapp, weeknights at 10 o'clock Eastern. And you never know who's going to show on The Right Squad. So check it out, Chris Plante and The Right Squad, 10 o'clock Eastern. On Wall Street, the stock markets opened mostly in the green this morning. The NASDAQ was just slightly red. Top business headline today, more than 30,000 Boeing workers are now on strike after rejecting a contract proposal that included a $3,000 signing bonus. Boeing, as you may know, has recently faced fines, lawsuits, and a declining stock price, which is declining even more today. Be sure to keep up with all of the news today, tonight, and all weekend long on Newsmax and Newsmax.com. Make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus so you get all of your favorite shows and guests. Rob Schmitt Tonight, Greg Kelly Reports, The Record with Greta Van Susteren, Wake Up America. Don't forget about the Wake Up America Weekend Edition, Saturday and Sunday beginning at 7. Saturday and Sunday Report, American Agenda. There's Lydia Serrani, Tom Basili, Rita Cosby, the Gorka Reality Check on Sunday, and much, much more. NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Share it with your friends and family, and make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Enjoy the weekend, be safe, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today.